Hi guys, this is Jim here from North Point. So I recently had the opportunity to moderate a panel discussion for International Coaching Week. Now I've moderated lots of panel discussions before, but never have I done one virtually or in front of such a large audience. We had over 300 people sort of tuning in. And I've been beating myself up over this because it didn't go according to plan. You may even say I sort of crashed and burned. So I sort of thought about this and I sort of figured, well, what can I learn from this and what's worthwhile sharing? So I'd like to share with you 5 tips for moderating an online panel discussion so that you don't make the same mistakes that I made. Tip number 1, breathe. That simple act of breathing. When you don't breathe enough, you don't get enough oxygen to your brain, you start to panic, you start to rush, and things just sort of escalate and become worse and worse. So breathe. Number 2, pause. There are times when you have to pause. There's a lot of data here. Let's just understand what we've learned. Let's just sort of summarize what we've learned, right? And make sure that we're on the same page as well as the audience. So give yourself that time. Don't rush. Pause when you need to pause. Number 3, and we call this the 3 T's or the 3 tells. Tell the audience what you're going to tell them, talk about it or tell them, and then tell them what you've told them. So it's about managing the audience's expectations. Be clear about what you're going to talk about, when you're going to talk about, so that the audience knows. That way you'll minimize sort of disruptive sort of chatter. Number 4, moderate. Your job is to moderate the conversation. You can't do that and look through a chat box with hundreds and hundreds of comments and try and distinguish between questions and chatter. So however you decide to do that, if that means engaging someone purely to manage the chat function and to manage the questions, you do that. Focus on moderating, focus on listening to the conversation and moderating the conversation. And lastly, tip number 5, have fun. They're enjoyable activities, they're enjoyable things to do, but if you're not having fun, if your panelists aren't having fun, and if your participants aren't having fun, then it just makes the whole experience not as valuable and meaningful. There you have it. There's 5 tips to moderating a panel discussion. I hope you find them useful.